Some crimes are so perfectly planned that they almost work. Almost. But the thing about the truth is that it doesn't stay buried forever. No matter how well hidden the deception, no matter how convincing the act, one wrong move can unravel everything. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more shocking true crime stories. Now, let's dive in. In 2009, the true crime TV show Cops happened to be filming in South Florida. They had no idea they were about to capture one of the most bizarre cases ever recorded. It started with Michael Dippolito, a man with a past he was desperately trying to leave behind. Michael had grown up in a tough Philadelphia neighborhood, where crime, addiction, and trouble were just part of everyday life. He had fallen into the cycle himself, selling drugs, running scams, even spending time in prison. But by the time he was released, he was determined to turn his life around. He got sober, started a legitimate business, and swore he would never end up behind bars again. Then he met Dahlia. She was young, beautiful, and full of energy. They met by chance at a Starbucks, and their connection was instant. So instant, in fact, that within months, Michael left his wife, married Dahlia, and moved her into a beautiful new condo in Boynton Beach. It was a fresh start, a new beginning. He had everything he ever wanted. But the feeling wouldn't last. One day, Michael opened the door to find his probation officer standing there, flanked by several police officers. They had received an anonymous tip that he was dealing drugs from his home. Michael was stunned. He had worked so hard to put that life behind him. He let them search his condo. They found nothing. Days later, it happened again. This time, they searched his car. Again, nothing. But on the third search, things changed. Hidden inside a cigarette carton beneath the spare tire in his trunk, officers found a bag of cocaine. Michael swore it wasn't his, pleaded with them to believe him. And somehow, they did. Instead of arresting him, they confiscated the drugs and launched an investigation. For Michael, the paranoia was unbearable. Who was doing this to him? Was it someone from his past? Someone seeking revenge? Maybe it was the mafia. Maybe it was an old business rival. He didn't know, but one thing was clear: someone wanted him locked up, and they weren't giving up. The stress was overwhelming, but Dahlia was by his side, promising they'd get through it. She was the only person he could trust. The only person who understood. Then, the attacks stopped. No more anonymous calls. No more police searches. Michael began to believe it was over. Maybe it had been a mistake. Maybe whoever had it out for him had finally given up. Life went back to normal. Until August 5th, 2009. That morning, at 5:45 a.m., Dahlia left for the gym, just like she always did. Less than an hour later, she got a call from an unknown number. It was a detective. There had been an incident at her home. She needed to return immediately. Her heart pounded as she sped back to the condo. When she turned onto her street, she slammed on the brakes. Police cars swarmed her home. Yellow crime scene tape stretched across the yard. Officers moved in and out of the house, their faces grim. A detective approached her. His voice was calm, but his words were devastating. There was a disturbance at your home. Shots were fired. I'm sorry to tell you. Your husband has been killed. Dahlia's knees buckled. She gasped, clutched at the officer's arm, sobbing. The pain in her voice was unbearable. It was every bit the reaction of a devastated wife who had just lost the love of her life. They took her to the station, sat her down, and let her cry. She was shaken, confused, heartbroken. The detective spoke gently. I know this is hard, but we need your help. We need to find out who did this. Through tears, Dahlia told them about Michael's past. The people he had wronged. The anonymous calls. It had to be someone from his old life, someone looking for revenge. She just didn't know who. The detective nodded, taking notes. Then, he leaned forward. His voice softened. There's something I need you to see. The door opened, and a man in handcuffs walked in. A tall, muscular man. Dahlia's eyes widened. The detective's voice was sharp now. Do you know this man? She hesitated. Shook her head. No. I've never seen him before. The detective's gaze hardened. The silence stretched. Then, with chilling finality, he said, That's interesting. Because he says he knows you. The room grew colder. The detective sat back, his eyes locked onto Dahlia's face. And then, he told her the truth. Her husband wasn't dead. There had been no shooting. This had never been a crime scene. Everything she had just witnessed, every moment of panic, every sob, every desperate plea, was all part of an elaborate trap. The man in handcuffs. He wasn't just some stranger. He was the undercover officer she had hired to kill her husband. And every single moment of their conversation had been caught on tape. Dahlia's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The detective didn't look away. We have everything, Dahlia. The phone calls. The money exchange. You sat in his car and told him you were 5,000% sure. And now you're going to jail. Her acting skills had been good. But not good enough. Dahlia was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison, though after a retrial, it was reduced to 16. Michael, the man she had tried to erase, walked away with his life. And Dahlia? She became the star of a real-life crime story more shocking than anything Hollywood could have written. So, what do you think? Was this the sloppiest crime ever attempted? Or was Dahlia just unlucky? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the world of crime.